In this episode, we'll be mortising the face frame material for the upper and the lower cabinet. Let's get started. So now I've got the upper and the base cabinet assembled, I can start working on face frames. I've pre-cut all my stock to length. I still like to go through and double check to make sure the measurements are accurate because there might be some variance in the thickness of the material. So I know on the sides, the styles, I'm going to have a 4mm offset. And you'll see why that's important when I start using the domino. So I just take a 4mm tenon, use that as my spacer, make sure that's flush. I'll do the same thing on the other side, and then I'll measure in between to make sure that my rails will fit in between. Then it's just a matter of marking out where all the mortise locations are, making the mortises, and then assembling it. Now I've got everything laid out and marked for exactly where I want the mortises. The mortise spacing really depends on the material you're going to be using. So now it's just a matter of getting the domino set up, and we can put the mortises in and get this face frame installed. So I'm going to start out with the rail for the top of the cabinet and the rail for the shelf first. Those are going to end up being flush with the top of the cabinet, and then this one will be flush with the top of the shelf. To do that, I'm going to be using a 5x30 tenon. So I've got the height of the fence set at 20mm, and then I've got the depth of the plunge at 15, because half of 30 is 15. So, like any material that you're using the domino on, let the machine do the work. Don't force it, don't try and push too fast, make sure you've got dust extraction on it. Now we're ready to mortise. So with the two rails out of the way, those are going to be flush with the shelf and the upper part of the cabinet. Now I can start working on the styles. And these are where I'm going to have the reveal, the 4mm reveal. So rather than having to go through and change all my mortise marks on here and do a lot of math, all I need to do is on the side of the domino, I can change my fence height from 20mm, which half of that is 10. If I go all the way up to 28, push that down, half of 28 is 14. The difference between 14 and 10 is exactly 4mm. That'll give me exact 4mm offset. So I've got the mortises in the bottom of this face frame for the edge of the plywood right here. Now I need to do the mortises to attach the center rails. For the shelf, I went ahead and marked a line center here and center on the piece itself. That'll line up perfectly with that 5mm tenon. Now on the edge here, typically what I would do, because this is going to be perfectly flush, I would just use the flaps right here, which are 37mm from the center of the domino to the flap itself. But my material is about 1.5 inches wide, or approximately 40mm. So by the time I do that, I would have my mortise hanging outside the edge of my material. So now I'm just going to use the flaps on the support base, which adds distance in there. So now it's 20mm from the center of the mortise to the edge of my material. And I always want to double check and make sure that I sent the fence height back to 20mm and not 28 when I'm moving to the face frames. So now I'll do the same thing on the other style. So now with all the mortises done, it's time for a dry fit. So I've got everything dry fit, everything looks good. I can go ahead and put some glue on it, throw some clamps on it, and then I can start working on the base cabinet face frame. So now that I've got the whole base cabinet assembled, I also went ahead and installed some runners. These runners are to attach the drawer slides to. If I didn't have those runners on there, when I put the drawer slides on, they'd be right up against the outside edge of the plywood. And if I did that, I wouldn't be able to put much of a face frame on there, or it'd be sticking way out too far this way. This allows me to move my face frame in a little bit. I do lose a little space for the drawers, but not that much. Gives it a better look in my opinion. And always make sure to label all your pieces, especially when you're doing multiple pieces of face frame material. So I went ahead and set the base cabinet out of the way, so I've got plenty of working space. I like to then just go ahead and lay out my face frame, double check my marks, make sure everything looks correct. For the face frame on this poplar, I'm going to jump up to a 6x40 tenon. Because it's solid poplar, it can handle a little bit thicker of a tenon and a mortise. It's a little bit stronger, a little bit more glue up surface, and will make for a really strong joint. So now I'll go ahead and change my bit, get my clamp set up, and then I can start mortising. With my mortise depth set and my fence height set, I'm ready to make some mortises. Now that I've got all the mortises done, I can move on to the dry fit. So with the dry fit looking good, I can go ahead and take it apart, glue it up, and then put it on the cabinet. So once the base cabinet face frame was all dried up, I took it out of the clamps, sanded it down lightly, and then I attached it to the base cabinet just like I did in the upper cabinet. While it was still up here, I went ahead and attached this top. This top is just several hickory boards that I glued up, cut to size, and then put a 3/8 inch round over on it. So when I went to attach the top to the base cabinet, all I did was drill some elongated holes in the base cabinet, got some washers, put my screw through the washer, screwed it down, so that's going to allow the top to expand and contract separately from the base cabinet. I went ahead and installed the drawer slides. That's going to help me with the next step, which is going to be the drawers. Now I've got the upper and the base cabinet finished with the face frames, I can start working on the drawer boxes. To continue the build, click here, or check this out, and don't forget to subscribe.